Teeth. Good evening and welcome to Success in the City. My name's Helen Webster. I'm with the lovely
Sandra Scott and the invisible Gary Adlen, who's coming on in a minute because we've had some technical issues, which may surprise you as this show runs so smoothly and seamlessly every week without fail. So he's coming on in a minute, okay? And this is because he's about carbon happy world. So maybe he's taking his time with his IT, just saying. So he'll be on shortly.
Cool.
Just waiting for him. How are you, Helen? Have you had a good week?
I've had a lovely week, thank you. He's just appeared at the bottom. I'm going to let him set up before I press enter, because otherwise you'll see him going like this to this camera and stuff.
Okay, then, fabulous.
We'll let him in. I've had a good week. I've had a nice week this week. Have you?
So I've had a good week, but extremely busy, which is nice, but like really mega busy with stuff going on, which is cool and that.
Right, I'm going to let him in because he's sorted his phone out. There you go.
There he is. That's better.
Hey, guys.
Now, there you go. And your mouth is in tune with the sound. So welcome, Gary.
Thank you. Hi, Helen. Hi, Sandra.
Hiya, you're right.
Lovely.
So we have a little format, Gary. We are live at the moment. We have a little format which we follow. We're not, it's dead slick. Not really, but we do have a little format that we follow. And the first thing we do is we shout out to the kids. So any little people, young people who've done amazing things this week. So I'm going to go first, okay? So I'm going to give a massive shout out to Fazackley Primary School. So in December, we went and did the Lou World Championship with them. And they were brilliant. We did we taught all the kids, but in the competition it was year 4 and year 6, and they were brilliant. And so we did them some certificates and we took certificates so they can put them up in their classroom and up in the reception. And I said, can we come to assembly and give these certificates out? So Dan Flesher, who's the sports lead, he said, yeah. Anyway, they did a special assembly just for us to go in.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So and they taught me this clap that they do and everything. So they were brilliant. And when they walked in, they were like, "Oh, you're here again." And I said, but we are going back in May. So we said, we'll be back in May. So they were all made up. So big shout out to all of them, the lovely children there. It's a lovely school. So any little people for you, Sam?
No, not well. I feel like I don't want to say the same things all the time, but sometimes I don't encounter little people in my daily life, or if I don't see any news. But I have taught 3 kids tonight before we came on, and 3 of them are all ahead of where they are in the curriculum in school. And I can't teach them next week. I haven't told the mum yet, but I'm going to say there's no point anyway, because they're all completely ahead. They're just, I can't believe it. And they were struggling a bit, which is why she got us involved. They're just flying, and they're working. It's hard to do a whole day at school, and one of them has an hour on the Zoom, half an hour English, half an hour Spanish, and she's just brilliant. So, yeah, well done to those guys.
Well done. What about you, Gary? Have you got any little people that you want to shout out to?
Well, I mean, I am 6'3", so everyone's little to me. So, when I saw your email, you said young people. I thought, well, it's relative, isn't it? Because I'm getting on a bit, and anyone under 30 is young to me. So I did have a think, and actually, I did have a conversation last week with a young lady called Jess Jones from MSB Solicitors.
Oh yeah.
And she's driving forward their sustainability agenda. She's a trained solicitor. She's only young. She is a fantastic advocate for that company. What she does, how she presents herself, a passion and belief in the environment is something that I at that age I didn't see much of it. I felt it myself, but you're always thinking it'd been a bit odd.
Yeah.
30 odd years ago, thinking about the environment, you were thought like you were swampy or something, But there's Jess really standing up and doing the bit for the environment, and I'm just so inspired by her.
Oh, brilliant. Well done, Jess. I love that.
Well done, Jess.
There's lots of young people, isn't there, who are doing amazing things, and, they don't get the shout-outs that they deserve.
Yeah.
Gary, when we were young, we didn't think about the environment because we thought we were going to be nuked, remember? That's where we were at.
Well, I mean, I was a bit odd because I used to I know I was worried about being nuked. I used to tell my mum to make sure that she saved all the newspapers because there was one recycling centre in the whole of Liverpool, and I'd jump on and I'd jump on the 79 bus and go recycle the papers, big stack of them. You know, my mum's going, get rid of those papers, will you? And I mean, another thing I did, if the drought is 76, I said to my mum, we need to get a shower because we're wasting too much water. You know, they'll be wearing like this council estate. Next thing you know, we have to queue of people around the block wanting to use the shower because they never used one before.
Oh, amazing. That's what we'll find out more about all of these little stories now you got into what you're doing now. That's super interesting. I was a little bit of an eco warrior when I was younger, went vegetarian and everything.
Great.
So yeah, success this week, something amazing that's happened to you personally. It can be anything, hasn't got to be work related.
When you said amazing, it doesn't always have to be amazing. It can be a little win.
Done things like that.
Well, I had a big success this week. I had, I mean, if we'd done this last week, I would have been struggling for a few weeks thinking what happened. But we had a training, a leadership training on sustainability with a hotel group in Sheffield, where all the directors and the managers came along, called Prem Suites, and that was a two-day workshop, and it was fantastic. Do you know when you see people who sort of don't really understand what's going on, and then come out feeling enthused and dynamic that they can do things and they can make a difference? That's so rewarding, and I was buzzing. I've been buzzing all week.
Oh,
brilliant!
That was great. Yeah, really good.
That's really good.
What about you, Sam?
I was going to ask you about yours, really. I've just had not really anything big this week. So, Gary, that's your success. My success was my cousin's getting rid of it. Love, she's got this dead nice desk with shelves and everything, and she said, you don't know anyone who wants this? And I said, yes, I'll have it for my office upstairs because I've got a table at the moment. So as you'll often see me in the dining room, so I'm quite excited about that. So I might move up there. So it's the little things for me. Plus our Ronan's made the dinner 3 times since Friday, which is great.
Well, the first one, Sandra's a good example of reuse of an item and part of the circular economy. So that's thumbs up to you as well. So that's a double success for me.
I'm a great recipient of the circular economy, Gary.
Great.
And have been for some time, but there we go. It comes in here.
Great. How about you?
Ellen's probably noticing now I've robbed this out of the office.
Good. Make sure you put it back.
Yeah. The pen from the office.
It's a good writer. I've got my posh fountain pen, but that's in the box, in my bag. What about you?
My success this week. So I had a lovely Zoom call with a lady from Birmingham, who you and I met, San, in Birmingham, didn't we, at the event? She's not from Birmingham, she's from Worcester, but we met her in Birmingham. And I'm really excited that that's going to lead on to some exciting stuff. And last week we took Lou, didn't we, to the councillors in Sefton. So Lou's our big interactive playground, and we did an event, and some of the councillors came along, and a couple of events companies, and it's lovely when people see it and get the same reaction that we do, and you go, oh my God, this is amazing. So it just sort of like sticks the rubber stamp that we're doing the right thing. So my successes, we're seeing other people being happy, playing and stuff like that. Yeah, so things are starting to move forward, which is good, isn't it?
That's great.
Okay, we're going to play.
Sorry, I was going to say there's definitely things moving forward in business, and that we have had loads more inquiries about single individual lessons for like Mandarin and Arabic and Japanese as well this week. So that is quite good in business, and it is picking up because it has been dead hard. So that's right. Sorry, Hel, go on.
Yeah, I was going to say we're going to play this or that. So Sandra will ask me and you, Gary, and I'll ask you and her. Okay, you've just got to answer them. Sandra, do you want to go first? Do you want me to go first?
Yeah, go on, I'll go first then. Okay, so the first one's for Gary. But Gary, and you might want to go into depth on this later, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Wind power or hydropower?
Wind.
Okay. Ooh, Helen?
And I will go into some depth on that.
Say wind.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I would say hydropower, but I don't know the rationale why you're not into it, but I'll find out later, and that will let me know.
Sorry, Sandra. I thought you said hydrogen, but But hydro, but I'll probably stick with wind. Yeah, I'll probably stick with wind, even though hydro's good. But yeah, we can discuss that. Yeah.
Hydropower, yeah. This is because I grew up in Canada, you see, and the whole of Ontario was powered by Niagara
It
Falls.
is. Yeah,
so I think it should run off a waterfall.
Yeah.
Okay. So hydropower for me, definitely. Yeah. And we've got that river there. I'm sure they could do something with that. But anyway, one hell.
Okay. Mine is, if you were trekking, would you rather trek the rainforest or deep dive in the ocean?
Oh, what a choice.
Well, I've done both, so I'm trying to think. I would, I mean, the ocean for me, yeah, but I've done both. It's the thing about the thing about walking in the rainforest is it's hot and sweaty, and you get bitten to hell.
Yeah. In the ocean,
so
you get eaten by sharks.
I'd say the rainforest. I don't put my head underwater, do I? So there. None of that.
Imagine how frizzy your hair would be, Sam.
Oh, that's the reason I couldn't move to Singapore, because your hair just goes like that and goes anywhere in the Far East. You just see your hair go like that, and it goes like this. Oh, it's shocking.
That's something I've never had to worry about.
So what would you choose, Sam? Would you choose the rainforest?
No, rainforest, because I don't put my head underwater.
I'd love to do both. Yeah, I'd love to do both, but I think the rainforest for me. I think the rainforest would just be magical with all the noises and just being in the middle of the trees and everything. Yeah. Go on, Sam, your second one.
Okay. Sorry, nice and easy. Now, you see, Gary will be into this because it's about import, export and stuff like that. Banana or apple?
Oh, well, are we importing them both, are we?
Well, where do we grow bananas and where do we grow apples? So that's just your choice. So I would say banana because I prefer a banana, but you might be influenced by your food miles.
Well, you've answered the question, yeah. But the thing is, interestingly, bananas have, because of their weight and they travel by sea, their food miles are significantly less, and the nutrient value of a banana compared to other fruits is quite high. So in terms of its impact on consumption, it's actually it's actually not as bad as an air mile as, say, flying berries from Peru or something.
Yeah. That's so interesting, isn't it? Okay, brilliant. So I'm all right with me banana. Thank God for that. Hell?
So I love apples, but I love bananas. If I had to choose one, I'd probably go apple. I think I'd probably go apple.
Yeah. I mean, the thing about apples is there's a variety where you could eat a different type of apple every day, couldn't you? Bananas are the same every day, aren't they?
Yeah. I like to eat a banana, but I love cooked apples and pies and things like that. I really love that.
Blackberries in it, lovely.
Okay. Walking barefoot on the grass or walking barefoot on the sand? Gary.
On the sand. I love being by the sea. I just love being by the sea. That's why Liverpool's so great, because it's so near the sea. I love it.
Yeah. On the sand, and which also acts as an exfoliant. So when you walk along the beach, your feet are lovely and smooth afterwards, aren't they?
Yeah, I did think of that.
Go on.
Yeah, I'd probably go the opposite. I'd probably go like freezing cold grass.
Freezing cold grass?
Yeah, like in the earth, because I just think like when you put your feet on it, it just grounds you. It's just like a lovely feeling. Although I do love the sand as well. But yeah, I'd probably go grass, I think.
Yeah.
Go on, Sam, last one for you.
Sorry. Okay. Reading a book or listening to an audio book, which is quite topical lately?
Well, I like to read.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I do listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of, as long as they're less than half an hour long before my attention span goes, about half an hour podcast I like, but I do like to read a book. Yeah.
I love reading, but because of time constraints, I listen to audio books a lot. Like I'll have them on in the car, and it's great. So you can determine the time you listen. But I do love enjoying a book. Go on, Hel.
Yeah, 100% books. And I've downloaded Audible. I've listened to 2 books. I'm binning it off. Can't cope with it. I like a podcast, so I can listen to a podcast, but I can't listen to a book. It just doesn't sink in. I need to read the book.
Just do a book at a time. Oh, is the pod? Do you like a podcast because it's a 2-way conversation, or not?
No, I just think a podcast is like it's sort of short, sharp, punchy. It's informative. I listened to the High 5 Habit on Audible, which was great, but I think I'd have got more if I'd have read the book.
Yeah, you do get more if you read a book, definitely. Sometimes you listen to a part of the book and you listen to it twice. Do you know what I mean? But yeah, fair enough. Okie doke. We are having severe technical problems tonight. Sorry, help me say that again, please.
You pay on Audible, don't you? But then you only get like 1 credit a month. So you may as well buy a book a month.
Buy a book a month. But often I suppose you pay $7.99 or whatever it is, and then you can have a book that's like £20 or something, and you keep it. But it's true, you don't have a physical copy in your house.
And then you can't go to your friend, read this like Uncle Ron gave to me on.
No, I got a book from Uncle Ron. I can't wait to get that. That was my Grace. I look forward to it.
Okay. Anyway, you're going to introduce Gary, Stan, because we've got more time with him.
All right. And then we need to go. We need to get cracking. Yeah. So our guest today is Gary Adlen, who I've known for some time, who has had seriously the most interesting life and the most interesting jobs. And he's such a knowledgeable person, which you probably already realize, not just about his field that he's involved in currently, but things he's done previously, and he's so well traveled. And you come this evening, Gary, to talk about your journey and how you've come to do what you do now. And you've set up a company, haven't you, called Carbon Happy World, and it's about the place, our world basically being a better place, isn't it, and protecting the environment. So love to hear all about your story. Helen and I will both butt in probably at the same time, and we'll probably ask you the same questions simultaneously, but take it away.
Yeah, so obviously I talked about pestering my mum when I was younger, but when I did a chemistry degree, and I didn't like chemistry at all, so I went into work for Royal Insurance, there's in the Sandcastle. And it's one of their graduate trainees, and we all had to pick a topic, and so this was in 1990. We had to pick a topic that would affect the insurance industry going forward. And I chose climate change in 1990, and I did this presentation to the regional board, and none of them had heard about climate change. And next thing you know, I'm whisked up to the marketing officers to discover more tell the marketing people about climate change. And then about a week later, the Tywyn floods happened. Do you remember that the railway line got flooded, and the Tywyn in North Wales got completely flooded, and that was attributed to climate change at the time. And that sort of put me on a journey, and I realised that chemistry wasn't that bad anymore, and I thought I wouldn't mind going back into that. So I went to the hazardous waste industry in the Northwest for a few years, a big company called Shanks, and I loved it. I loved talking to the clients about getting rid of the waste and disposing of it properly. What I didn't realise was at the time we had another division, which was an international division, where they did a lot of work with the UN and the World Bank and a lot of aid agencies to work in developing countries to clean up the environment. And I'd won a big project in the Northwest that's really successful, and they got the attention of one of the directors, and they were having problems in an island called Zanzibar, where they did a year project to clean up the whole island, replant trees, put farming back in its place, educate the locals on how to farm properly, how to use chemicals properly, fertilizers, etc. And it was going really wrong. Everything was going wrong about it. There was a guy there who was quite ill, really, but he wasn't performing well. He said to me, "Do you want to go over and give her a go?" So I said, I said, right. So I went to Tanzania, and I spent 6 months in Tanzania, turned the project around, learned so much about the environment, about how you plant trees, about how you plant crops, soils, how you education in all of this is the key. Learning is the key, because the more people learn, the more they understand on how to treat the environment properly. And of course, we turned it around, and I could regale you the stories all night about what happened at that over those 6 months with a gang of Welsh lads who were working for me. But that then set me on a path, and I came out of the region, the UK, and I took over running some of the territories around the world and working with the UN, and I ended up working and living in South America. I was down in Sao Paulo and Buenos Aires, and I was there for 2 years, and I received an award from the Brazilian government, a Companion of Honor Award for services to the environment. I was only young.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But they didn't tell me. They just said to me, "Go and get a dicky bow and a suit because you're going to meet the president." And I was going, "What for?" Next thing you know, I've got all this like conquistador like men dressed up and banging the spears or whatever they are, and I'm getting guided through the palace in Sao Paulo. Bloody hell, I was absolutely terrified. But yeah, so I did that, and then I got poached by a competitor and went to live in Paris for 3 years, and I headed up their international division. And I was doing more office based, and I enjoyed it less because I wasn't involved in the project so much. I was actually, directing as you do from an office, and I was just doing all the finance, the politics, and things. But again, that was an experience working with the French. Made some great friends. Again, working with the UN and some big oil companies, ironically. And then after that, I was 39, and I realized I didn't really have a life because all I was doing was flying around the world, and it sounds glamorous, but it's a pretty lonely environment to be working in as a young lad. And I came home and thought I'm going to do something different, and that's when I became director of the investment agency at business development at Mersey Partnership, as it was then. Now it's the growth platform, I think it's called. And I did that for a number of years. I absolutely loved it. Going around the world, selling your city and talking about what the city can offer was just, although I wasn't really in the city for so long, I mean, I've been away from it for a long time. It was always in my heart, and I loved talking about it, and I loved selling it. And we were successful. We brought some cracking companies to the city region. I loved doing that. And then I went on to work for Liverpool Football Club, and I was a director there for the foundation, set that up. And was on their brand committee, so we looked at the whole brand thing for the city, for the club, over a 10-year period, and how that's been really satisfying to see that develop and people taking it on board and running with it. That's been lovely. I did that for a few years, and that took over my life. Really, that was like, once you're in a football club at that level, you don't get a minute, and that was exhausting, but I enjoyed it. So I left there in 2014, and I opened a couple of restaurants then, which one was successful. The other one wasn't so successful, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot about people, about myself, and about what I enjoy. And my whole motivation was really about wine, because I love wine.
Yeah.
And then I closed that down in 2018 and went back to education and sports in Saudi Arabia, where I talked about brands and I talked about developing your sporting base.
I wonder what year that was, because Helen went out to work in Saudi and she took the P curriculum to girls all over Saudi Arabia.
Oh, fantastic. That's fantastic, Alan. Because one of the big challenges we had was introducing women to sport. And what I did do, I brought over from Liverpool, 3 yoga teachers to teach yoga to women in Riyadh. And at first, the Saudis thought I was introducing a new religion. But I mean, there was a queue around the block to do the yoga with the yoga teachers. We did that, but they absolutely loved it, and engaging with women and getting women on board. That was 2019, just before the pandemic. Yeah, 2020.
You were there then, weren't you, Hal? You went there?
So I went 2020. I went so 3 years ago, round about now. Yeah, I went and we did the National Girls Sports Day, where we went and delivered to 18,500 little girls. We stayed in Riyadh, and then we went to Riyadh, to Jeddah, to Abha, to Hail, and back to Riyadh. Amazing experience. Absolutely.
Oh, it's great. I love it. I love Saudi. Yeah. I love Saudi. People are lovely. I've had friends there for years, and it was a real pleasure to catch up with some of my friends I've met through the environmental stuff, because they were involved in that. And then when the pandemic happened, that's when I sort of went full circle and went back to the environmental stuff, because I decided, I mean, I've always been interested in it. I've always read about it. I've always read books and documentaries, and I've always been like a sponge when it comes to the environment. And I was beginning to read about companies declaring that they were net zero, or that they were carbon neutral, and that they were they could carry. And I was thinking, what does that mean? I didn't understand it. And I was thinking, how can they say those things? The more I looked into it, the more I realized that a lot of it was fabrication. And so what I did, I taught myself to code, and I developed an app for a carbon tracker where you can develop and measure your footprint as a company or as an individual. So you go onto our website, and if you go onto a website and have a go at it, just click on for you and it'll calculate your carbon footprint, and it'll tell you what grade you are from an A to a H. So we developed that. Of course,
Is the website just, sorry guys, is the website just carbonhappyworld.com or .co.uk?
No, just Carbon Happy World, yeah. Just www.carbonhappy.world, yeah.
Not com or
world. I'm just putting it onto the chat now, so if anybody, I've put it onto our chat now so people can have a look.
Yeah, and then, it takes about 2 minutes to do that survey. But you don't want to say when I taught myself to code, what I didn't realise was that how difficult coding was, and I sort of got so far, and then thought, oh right, I better take this. So I sent it to India to get properly coded, because I'd done all the calculations and everything, and and that was an experience talking to people in code and talking their language, which was a bit odd. I felt really felt a bit of a geek, but I quite enjoyed that. And then we developed an educational platform as well, where we teach sustainable leadership for people. And that to me has been the biggest eye-opener in a lot of ways. It's about people just don't know what climate's about. They don't understand the issues surrounding it. They just get on with their lives, and they see it on the telly, and they might have a couple of hot days and go, oh, isn't this terrible? Or there might be a flood they see on, like in the Lake District, but it never really affects them. And when it's coming home to roost more and more, and particularly with organizations and companies, they've got to start thinking about the way they operate and the way they change, because the way we're living in an environmental debt. So we're consuming 70% more than the climate, than the environment can provide us at the moment on a long-term basis. So if it was 100%, we'll have drained the planet and we get another planet. But we're like nearly 200%. So we need like another 3 planets to sort of keep us on the path that we're going. And that's just not right. It's not fair for our kids. It's not fair for our communities. But we do it because no one's telling us anything else. So you find yourself in a situation where you jump on a plane. Helen, you said you're vegetarian. That's great. But you jump on a plane. You might jump in your car to go to the shops, or you might stream a video. Everything we do has got like this today. What we're doing now has got a footprint, and out of those 8 billion people on our planet, 600 to 700 million of them are responsible for 52% of all carbon activity. That's about 10% of the planet's population is responsible for 52% of all the activity. And so when I talked about that planet and that, we're 70%, some people are using 5 planets worth, while other people are using a tenth of a planet. And we know who they are. Those people are in India, they're in sub-Saharan Africa, they're in parts of Asia. And those people that are using like 3 or 4 planets worth of planet, us 3 sitting here, and people in the West. And yet, if I said to you, stop right now, stop taking your kids on the school run, stop eating beef, stop flying, stop streaming, stop buying new clothes, you just tell me where to go, because what I'm saying to you is change your lifestyle.
But there are modifications that you can make though. So for example, the type of car you drive, do people need a big massive car? And I've had a hybrid since 2014, and a few people thought I was a lunatic getting when I bought that. I researched it for about 18 months before I bought it, and I love it. And I'd go to London and back on £30 when I got that car, which is obviously dear now, but still 50 quid I can go to London and back in that car. But people go, oh, you've only got a Yaris or whatever. But it was very, very expensive when I bought it. And the price of the cars, for example, are prohibitive to people, I think. So there's people who want to do stuff. There's people who want an alternative. And, it's quite good what we're fortunate in Liverpool, where the maximum bus fare is £2 now. But if you're a mum, if you've got 3 kids, that's £8 to get the bus. Anyway, maybe there's a child's fare. I'm not
There's
sure.
a child's fare, yeah. There's a child's fare.
So you can go a short distance in a vehicle for a £5, or you're saying about walking and things like that. And I drove my son to school where we lived over the water because I didn't like the local school. It didn't do well. And I found place in another school that was 7 miles away. And I did a 14-mile round trip morning. Twice a day, I did 14 miles round trip to take my lad to school and pick him up. I parked away from the school because he had a walking thing. And then we walked, whatever, when he was little, so he could get his walking badge or whatever. But I did that drive twice a day. Now, most people think, well, that's outrageous. 28 miles a day in an urban area to get your kid. This was over the water to take your kid to school and everything. But he was really happy then. He got a good education. And it's like the payoff. And it's, if you have to do those things, how can you offset them? How can,
So Sandra, you've touched on a number of issues there. One is obviously the way society accepts that it's okay to do a school run now is, in my mind's wrong. But I understand why they're doing it, because it's cheaper than jumping on a bus. And so that comes to a government and policy issue. So what we're doing is, we're not like when we were kids, we were given a zone ticket to jump on the bus. I lived 7 miles from my school, and I had a ticket which was free. And that meant that kids could travel to the school they wanted to go to. And that was stopped under the Conservatives, and it's never been reinstated. I don't hear Steve Rotherham or anyone talking about, like, as part of our climate initiative, we're going to get kids back on the buses and on the trains. I don't hear that, but that's the way we've got to go, because that's a way of reducing the carbon footprint at a stroke. Because people don't realize it. People don't think. Like, people don't, when they're driving, they'll think, oh, I'm polluting the environment. Do you know, when they see a plane trail, a plane trail going across the sky, they don't think that that's a reductive element, which is basically having a massive contribution to the climate crisis we're in. No one thinks like that.
I think they do. I think that. I used to work on aircraft, as you know. I do think that. I think a lot of people, when they see it, think, oh, it's pollution. I think a lot of people think that way, and they're a lot more clued up, Certainly people I come to would definitely recognise that with an aircraft, because we used to always talk about it. When we flew, we knew that. When we were, when I worked on an aircraft, we knew that definitely. I think it's important to get kids walking, but like you say, I think a lot of secondary school kids get a bus, but parents are worried though. Parents are worried things happen to their kids. Parents are judged, aren't they? Older kids do tend to get the bus or walk, but I never lived within walking distance of a school.
I think this, this fear factor of a kid being abducted. There were kids abducted when we were, in the 50s and 60s from the local neighborhoods. They lived in the local neighborhoods. They didn't travel anywhere. And how many kids here get abducted in school? It's zero. And I think it's almost like, I can't do it because. But if you said to those parents, do you know that do you know what the future your kids are going to inherit is one which they're going to struggle to find food, to find water. It's going to be expensive. That they won't be able to travel. Is that the type of future you want for your children? Because ultimately that's where it's going. And I know people don't like to hear it, but that's the fact. And what we have to do is we have to start thinking. You're right, Sandra. We have to start thinking about what little steps can we take? What steps can we take to make it? Because if I said to you, stop having milk in your tea, right? You would go, no chance, right? But if I said to you, maybe you could just think about switching the TV off standby and your computer off standby, and you feel, yeah, I can do that because it's not much skin off my nose. And it's a behavioural thing, because once you get into the habit of things, that's when you start learning about the impact it has. And what our steps does, it measures that for you as well.
I mean, I don't have, I have like oat milk or almond milk. I was having, and someone said, so I have oat milk and stuff. I don't have dairy actually. And that's not a conscientious, my son's, because of the environment, he's always, we don't eat beef because of the environment and everything. Mine wasn't. Mine was a health thing, and I'm much better for not eating dairy anyway. But he's like right on about all of that. And so, I don't have any dairy stuff in the house, even like, even for bacon and things like that. I have eggs, which some people say, well, it's not dairy or it is whatever. I have eggs. That's it though. And I mean, Helen, you're completely vegan, aren't you? I'm a flexitarian.
I'm not vegan, I'm plant-based. And the reason, during lockdown, I watched, somebody was talking about What the Health, which was the programme. And there was What the Health, there was Seaspiracy, there was Cowspiracy. The first one I watched was about the green sports people. So it was sports people who had gone vegan, who had gone on to achieve amazing things.
Oh, yes, saw that.
Strongest man in the world.
Yeah.
Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I loved it. And then I watched What the Health, and the bit that got me was they said there's enough grain in the world there's enough grain to feed the world, but we feed it to our cattle to feed the people. And I was just like really, really upset by that one little sentence.
70%.
And I watched it, and so yeah. I just thought, if there's enough grain in the world to stop world hunger, why we feed it to animals? And you know, there's lots of other things and stuff. But when I was younger, I was a vegetarian when I was about 16. I think I was like 15, 16, 17. And I did that for all the animals, you know, and I was like all for the animals and saving the world and everything like that. And then, of course, you know, things happen and you go on and change and stuff. But since I've watched those programs, I've made a conscious effort. So I turn the lights off and walk out. And it's dead funny because, like, you know, my dad always used to say, turn the lights off, shut the doors, you know, all things like that, which and it's like turning it off when you clean your teeth. Little tiny things that you can do through the day to try and help as much as you possibly can. And I think if everybody does a little bit, because quite a lot of it, I mean, I think the young people are really clued up on it because they do a lot about it in school. Young people, there's quite a lot of schools now which don't want plastic bags, you know, with the sandwiches, and they use particular wax paper and stuff. There's quite a lot of schools now who are getting on board with it, and I think what tends to happen is people think it's somebody else's problem, a bit like you were saying before, Gary. You know, it's somebody else's problem until it hits home and close to you, you know, with the floods and stuff like that.
It's not deep enough or durable enough for anybody.
Sorry,
Gavin, sorry. I was going to say, just to pick on your point, it's not deep enough or durable enough for anyone, for us to feel it, that we have to act in an emergency type style. But going back to your point about vegetarianism, there's a couple of issues around that, which are, you know, the vegetarians don't get off scot-free either with the environment, particularly when they start, particularly like that. You know, I'm mainly vegetarian, but every now and then I do like a bacon butty, I have to admit, and I go for it. But with vegetarians, what I find, you know, I'm very strict on what we buy in the winter, because if you buy salads in the winter, the greenhouse gas effect of that is equivalent as having an 8-ounce steak. One bag of that. Because of the big, well, one, it's imported, but secondly, it's grown in greenhouses where they use a lot of gas to keep it warm. Yeah, and the second issue is the land use. So you talked about the grain. Now, forests are being cleared to grow grain for either cattle or humans, and so if we stopped eating animals that were fed on the grain, the theory would be that those fields would not be needed anymore, and they could go back to the natural environment. But then you sort of think, well, what are the alternatives for that? So there are things now like where you've got insect farms where they grow insects and kill them and basically use them as supplement feed for soy and grain, because that's a way of giving animals the protein they need at a very low density way of land use. So what they're trying to do, and it's like with the oil industry, you know, the meat industry and the oil industry are trying to reinvent themselves because they've realized that the numbers are for them coming down the track now, and it's called greenwashing. You probably heard that phrase, where, you know, everything, that's all right because they're doing that now. Well, because they say they're doing it doesn't mean to say it's okay, and that's what we have to look into and start, and we have to question more. And I think that's going back to where the education comes in, where the more you learn, the more you can question, and the more you can make the right decisions and inform other people around you.
So, Gary, in terms of your business, then, because you're obviously really passionate about this, and this comes across, and it's gone through your whole life, really. you know, and you've travelled, you've done what it says on the tin, really, haven't you? And you live your life like this. You're not paying it lip service. So in terms of the business you've set up then, have you been welcomed with open arms about this? Or are they saying, oh yeah, come in and help us? Or did they not really want to know? Because it's quite pioneering.
It is pioneering, and there's a mix of those three elements you just discussed there, Sand. It was like some just say, please come and talk to us, we need to get this sorted out, because they're the clever ones in my mind. They're the ones who see the writing on the wall coming down the track. There's legislation coming down the track this year for reporting on your emissions, and so big companies now, that doesn't matter. You think it's not so much for smaller companies, but actually there's a supply chain issue. So people are going to wake up when it starts hitting them in the pocket. Number one, there are those people who are kidding themselves and just want to pay lip service to it. And I can't, and I don't want to entertain those people. I'm not here for quick wins. I want people to be on a track. It's not difficult. It's actually really interesting. You can actually save a lot of money in your company by doing it. That's what we found. Companies are saving a shed load of money by just cutting the waste they didn't realize they had in their business. And then the third element is trying to persuade some people that's what they need to do. That's the most difficult one, because I've been in a few meetings this year where I can just see eyes rolling and arms crossed. I'm thinking, I may as well be talking to a wall here. But but they invited me in, they were interested, but they weren't convinced enough that it wasn't for them. And yet, really, I think, I would expect in a year or two's time, they'd be knocking on our door saying, you need to come and talk to us now.
Well, let's hope they are, because I think it's
quite
really
a lot of,
there's
quite a lot of businesses now who won't deal with other people who are like, or they want like, net zero and carbon, people who are actually, they're a little bit more of a thoughtful buyer, aren't they? They sort of want to know where it's come from, and are they sustainable? Are they looking after people in other countries? Is it ethically sourced? All those sort of things. And I've spoken to a few people about it who are trying their best to try and go down a different route and things. And I think everybody should do the carbon happy world for themselves, but then also get their business to do it, because I think it'd be like super interesting to be able to. And then, so when it comes out and it says, this is your carbon footprint, does it then give you suggestions of how to reduce that?
Well, what the way ours is a bit different from the others is it gives you a personalized track to go down, and there's a small subscription for that. It's not a lot of money at all, but with other trackers that you've got out there, they basically say, don't drive your car, don't fly, don't eat meat, and you think, no, I know all that. But what this tracker does is it basically looks at your lifestyle and says, these are the areas where you could look at. Have you thought about these actions? So what you get when you subscribe, it'll be from next month actually. When you subscribe, you can choose actions, and those actions are part of your plan. It's like going on a diet in a way. And then that tells you how much carbon you would actually reduce by doing those actions. So you can choose up to 8 actions a month, and they vary. There's about 200 choices there. But you can choose, and it sets you on a journey. And then what will happen in about 2 months' time is you'll start getting texts from us saying, now's a great day to hang your washing out because it's really windy and it's dry. Or put your Hoover on because there's lots of renewables going on. Or did you know that in the summer where you're living, you are at severe risk of drought or flood or blah blah, all those types of. So it's very engaging. It's personalised, and it's about listening to you, what you want, and how we develop it going forward. Because we've got AI coming in. One stand, what was that?
Yeah, I've just had a look. Sorry, whilst you're talking, because I knew you haven't got long. I've just been having a look on it because we're getting a new website done, and I think this is really important. So it's got for your business, and I noticed it says your business can get accredited. Because I always think some things we do online or on the phone. So if I send an interpreter somewhere, we have interpreters traveling to places, you see, and this is what I'm trying to think about all the time, how to get better. A lot of the interpreters get public transport anyway.
Yeah. But even if they do that, it's good to measure, to know where you're at and know what your contribution is. There's a lot of great stuff going on. Lots of people do great things, but they don't understand what it means in terms of its impact. So, what's Helen's vegetarian impact? What's Sandra's impact with her clients? How do you know? How do you know what it is? How do you know how much you weigh in terms of carbon? That's what we've got to be looking at. And that's it won't be long before we all have carbon accounts, by the way. That'll be my prediction going forward.
Oh wow. And it says you can get this accreditation. Well, I need to have a conversation with you about this. To this in a big way. It's so interesting as well, isn't it? And it's important, and it's part of ethical business. We think we do run an ethical business, pay people properly, look after people, stuff like that, but this is all part of it, isn't it? The impact you're having in the world.
Well, the biggest thing you've done today for the environment today is talking about it. That's the biggest thing you both of you have done, and thank you very much for letting me
have a laugh on it. No, it's fine. No, but it's dead important, but it's really interesting as well. And how you come to this, and and sometimes when people say things people don't want to hear, they're not always well received, are they?
No.
But it's important, and a lot of things we have, and we've had so many people on here, people who set up charities, but they've all been catalysts for change. Have laws, done great things, and people who don't toe the line, who don't fit in, never have change, do they? So it's brilliant you're doing this, and it's brilliant you're from here, and you're so knowledgeable about it.
Thank you, Sandra. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I think the other thing is as well, I think the way you come across, Gary, because you are very knowledgeable about what you're talking about, but you talk about it in a real everyday way. You're not lecturing people on, you must do this, you must do that. It's about educating people and letting them have a little go themselves, and then say, "Oh, I didn't realise that," or if I did this, and that's the fascinating bit, isn't it? Because you don't really. I remember somebody saying, I think it was on this show, and I think it might have been Joanne Summers, I'm not sure, but she said to delete your inbox.
Well, that's fantastic. Right, so listen to this, right? So we're having a World Delete Your Data Day on the 21st of March this year, right? And what we're doing is the campaign starts next month, where we're going to campaign for people to start deleting their inboxes. Because if you think, right, this is an average, if every email you've got sitting in that inbox carries a carbon footprint of 3 grams minimum, that's with no pictures on, and it can go up to like 100 grams if you've got pictures and vids on it. So you think that's sitting there on your video, right? Sorry, on your computer. There are shelves full of @signs right around the world that are gathering dust, and a lot of the dust is coming from your computers because no one can be bothered just to go delete. And you imagine if everyone deleted all those emails from like going back 15 years, it would like the world could breathe again, because all of a sudden we've closed down a coal-fired power station in China.
So I'm gonna put my hand up now, and I'm glad we're not in close proximity to each other. So I had over 25,000 emails at Christmas. I'm down to 11,500 because I've been deleting hundreds every day. I like the fact that you found it in your heart to be able to praise me there. So I've been deleting every day. It's been honestly.
It's some people. Some people have orders and even hoard emails. I was seeing emails from like 2006, and I'm thinking, why have I had that? I deleted that. Now, this is when I learned this a couple of years ago. I deleted 76,000 emails. That's the equivalent of a flight from Liverpool to Malaga.
See, it's this type of thing as well, the value of it that we don't know as the general public. We're not all aware of it, what equals what.
Emails
is the same as flying to Malaga.
And a bag of salads is the same. In the bag of salads in the winter is eating a steak, and you're thinking, "Oh, what should I have? A steak or a salad?"
I know, like I always try and think of him as like when you see green beans, like as you say, you're from Kenya and stuff like that. That is a long flight, as we both know. So it's stuff like that's crazy, isn't it?
It is, But then here's the ethical question for you: do you then have a people in Kenya who can have a sustainable living and educate their children so that they have better education, so they make better choices, i.e. have less children, etc., because we're buying beans from them? Or do you say, I don't buy those beans because a kilo of beans from Kenya has a carbon footprint of about 11 kilos per kilogram?
Well, Gary, I know your app's going to tell me.
It does tell you, yeah.
I'm on it. I'm definitely on this on a personal level and a commercial level as well. Just I haven't got much time, but just something I really want to know dead quickly is it said about, and on the app there, it says about businesses getting accredited and stuff like that. So what if it's like a small business, a very small?
Yeah. So small businesses can still get accredited, and we basically it's quite cheap. It's not expensive. Yeah. So what you get is a guide to just use the tracker, and you're on your way. And what you do is that there's 2 accreditation, and here's the problem in the industry at the moment, where there's lots of companies like mine, not lots, about 20 around the world that have set up in various guises, and they're all saying, you know, that we'll accredit. Well, we call it Carbon Happy Standard, which basically means that you are now on a journey to net zero. Well, you recognise that your company needs action, right? That's what it does. What a lot of companies are doing is they're giving another accreditation. It's all based on what's called the greenhouse gas protocols, which are a UN set of guidelines, and they're giving another set of accreditation, which basically says you're now net zero accredited, and that's that. And you give that 2 years after, because you've got to show that you actually mean what you say and what you do. Now, we could do that, but we're a bit reluctant at the moment, because it's like, as you know, you're marking your own homework, and I don't think that's a very ethical way of behaving. What I want to do is encourage people to go and look at the footprint and start changing and making those positive actions, and understanding why they're doing, not just doing it because they feel like they have to, but understanding why they have to do it. And then they go on a journey. And then I'd like to work with someone else that would basically say, okay, let's have a look at that and see whether you can credit or not, because it's like, you know, it gives me confidence that we're on the right path, which I know we are. But someone coming in doing it, I feel comfortable. The other day, I was driving down Egbert Road, and there was a BP van in front of me, and it said on the back of the van, it went BP carbon accredited, and I was thinking, how can BP, an oil company, be carbon accredited by its own company?
That means they produce carbon.
They produce a lot of carbon.
That they printed their own stickers and stuck them on, isn't it?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, I think we could talk about it a long time, and I'd love to
I look forward to
find out on the 21st of March. Definitely, I think on the 21st of March it'd be really interesting. We'll follow you on socials anyway, and we'll share stuff. But I think on the 21st of March to find out how much has been deleted would be amazing, won't it?
That'd be great. I mean, we're going to have like an accumulator on there to see how much emails we've deleted managed to get people to delete around the world, and then we can add it up and say we've saved a lot of carbon by just people just sitting at the desk and deleting emails.
Yeah,
and it is little simple things, and you know, little hints and tips like that for people to just be able to do things. You know, every little step helps, doesn't it? Which would be amazing.
Absolutely, that's what Carbon Happy steps that we talk about.
Education. It's so interesting what you're doing. Fantastic.
Thank you.
So beneficial to the world.
Thank you.
Brilliant. So we're going to carry on with our red face moment. Okay, something slightly embarrassing that's happened. Okay, have you got one, Sam?
Yeah, but have you got one?
I've got a build.
Go on then.
So me and Phil are watching Strike on the telly.
I love that.
And one of the actresses, so the girl in it is called Holiday Granger. Like that's the actress's name. So I'm not there like that, and the credits come up and it's Holiday Granger. So I did, and I goes, do you think she's related to? And I was about to say Hermione Granger. Although Hermione Granger is a character, isn't he, in Harry Potter?
Brilliant. This no.
So I start laughing because.
Oh yeah, I have.
I start laughing because I realise what I've done. Yeah, so I realised what I've done, and I burst out laughing. I was like, "Oh, you absolute tip!" And Phil's like, "Rhoda," and he goes, "Do you know what the funny thing is?" And I went, "What?" He went, "Last time we watched that, you said exactly the same thing."
That's the type of thing I'd say, definitely. That's brilliant.
So that's mine.
Have you got anything you feel able to share?
No, hang on, you sprung it on me because you gave me the list and you didn't put like the embarrassing moments. I've got about thousands of them.
I forgot about the red face. I'll have to add that.
Well, not this week springs to mind. I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I've got hundreds of them. I'm always putting my foot on it.
that's, as we sent an email to Bernie Hollywood before he came on the show. He's rowing across the Atlantic on the boat to Hope and all the rest of it. So I copy and paste it and tweak it when I send it to whoever I send it to each week before they come on the show. So I didn't feel able to ask Bernie Hollywood if he had a red face, obviously. But we feel able to ask you that.
I've got red just thinking about it, so there you go.
I always have some really good ones, but I told you about when I thought the tiles were uneven and it was the reflection in the mirror. That was just embarrassing. So we just have them every week. I think Helen has the best ones.
I was this far away from today from absolutely producing another corker. So part of our shout out to the grown-ups. So John Bullock launched this book today and I went to the book launch. This girl walks in and stands next to me. And I thought it was Siddha the yogi. And as I went like that with my hands to go, wow, like that on her shoulders, she turned and I thought, oh, it's not it.
Oh, she does it all the time. She flung herself on someone's car going, hi, and it wasn't our friend. So them absolutely loads of them are brilliant. So
have you got any shout out to the grown-ups? Any grown-ups who've done amazing things? So I'm going to shout out to John Bullock. I've got his book. There's his book.
Find your flow.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, this is the book I'm reading at the minute. This is the book I'm reading. We Are the Weather.
Oh, I've made it.
And this is fantastic because this guy puts it in he puts climate change in a really human way, and that was Ariel Odessa gave me that from Hildix. But I went to the training course with Brem Streets. I brought along another trainer with me. His name's Howard Gunstock, and he's been trying to grow kelp farms off the west coast of Ireland and the west coast of Scotland. And he's had a lot of struggles. You know, he's had a lot of struggles and with his family and getting his business off the ground. But that guy is an inspiration in terms of his enthusiasm for the environment. And listening to him do part of the training was just a real pleasure. So well done, Howard. I was really made up. You've decided to work with us.
Oh, brilliant.
Brilliant. Well done, Howard. What about you, San? Any grown-ups?
Yeah, I've got a few shout outs. Rena Sowler, and I've given a shout out before. She's just amazing. She's she does some Mandarin tuition for me and interpreting as well as all her own stuff. She's just amazing. So we go down to Chinatown, and I took a client I have who I teach English to, and we showed around the Chinese community and everything. And there's Rena doing the dragon everywhere. I thought that's just typical. She's so fair, and they're doing the dragons and they're running around, and it's hours and hours and hours. It's so cool what they do.
Jess was doing that, Sandra. Jess, you mentioned earlier, she was doing the dragons as well this weekend.
Oh, was she? Oh.
Yeah.
And also I wanted to give a shout out to Nikita Paris and Natasha Jones, sisters from the city, who've been getting all kinds of awards and things like that. Just the pair of them, Freedom of the City, for everything they've done locally and for sports, etc.
Brilliant.
I met Nikita about 9 years ago, and she was amazing, absolutely unbelievable. And when you just meet somebody and you just think you're we were doing an event in a kid's school, and she was just brilliant. She was lovely with the kids, and she was nice. So and we're trying to get one of them on the show.
Oh, imagine.
Yeah, definitely. So what book are you reading or podcast are you listening to, San?
Well, I haven't finished the one I think I mentioned last week. Did I say about upstreaming? So I'm on that still. I don't know if I think I just started it last week, but it's helped me loads about identifying and you'll be into all of this, Gary, massively. So not just putting a plaster on the problem, looking at the source, really going into it. Helen recommended upstreaming to me, and it's really good. I've listened to a couple of chapters twice, though, I must admit. But so I'm up to about chapter 8 on that now. I've got about 2.5 hours to go, as it tells you on Audible.
It's a great book. It's a great book. I think a lot of what you're saying, Gary, is about upstream, and let's be proactive rather than reactive. And why do we always why do we always spring into action when there's a crisis? Why are we not preventing the crisis? And that's a lot of different things. But upstreaming is it's a really interesting the way he talks about it and stuff like that.
I think it's very good for business as well. Actually, it's a good business book too, as well. Yeah,
Great.
Really good. It is. Yeah.
You Hal?
I'm reading. So I've just got the Find Your Flow. But I'm also reading. Is it called The Journey, which is the big panda and the little dragon, which I got for Christmas?
Oh yes.
It's a bit like. It's a bit like the Boy, the Mole, the Fox, and the Horse. Yeah, it's a bit like that sort of same sort of like they go through the journeys and there's a lot of messages in it and things like that. So yeah, I'm reading that, which was a Christmas present, which was lovely. So yeah, so we've come to the end. Gary, massive thanks for joining on. Sorry, we've had a few techie issues.
No problem. So really enjoyed it.
We'd love to have you back and you can tell us some more about what's going on when you launch everything and you know, it'd be amazing.
Yeah.
And we would like you to close the show with a mantra or a closing quote that you live by.
Love what you do.
Love what you do. I do love what I do. Love what you do.
I'm going to write that down. Love what you do. Perfect.
The other thing I thought of, just when you were talking there, about upstream, Helen, I know we're going to go on, but I'm going to have to go in a minute as well myself. But people say, what difference can I make? There's only me. Look at China, what they're doing, and look at you know, what I say to people like that. How many raindrops does it take to make a flood? Right, and consider yourself as a raindrop. Right.
Exactly. If everybody has their impact. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. You've been so interesting. We've got
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you. It was a real pleasure. Hope to see you again soon. I'll speak to you soon, Sandra, as well about your footprint. Yeah. Take care, guys.
Bye now. Bye.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. See you next week.